All right, so here we're supposed to solve the rational inequality and then express the answer in interval notation. Well, when we do inequalities, with less than or equal to 0, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have some number line. We're going to have to choose some points, choose some test points, and then work our way through trying to figure out what interval works within that number line. So what do we know here? Well, we know if we solve this one, we're going to get our asymptote, our vertical asymptote. And if we solve this one, that's going to be our x-intercepts, okay? So x equals 3 is going to be our x-intercept. So what we can do is over here on our number line, we can say, okay, well, at x equals 3, that is going to be 0. Then we can say, well, x equals a negative 2. Well, that's a vertical asymptote. So what does that tell us? Well, we cannot be equal to a negative 2. And so somewhere over here at negative 2, we can't equal that. So we can go up to it, but not equal to, and we can go past it, but not equal to it. And that's going to be what that vertical asymptote is, okay? Now what we need to do is kind of choose. We've kind of got some areas here where we know we can go somewhere over here, we can go somewhere in here, and we can go somewhere out here. And so we're going to do some tests. So what's going to be left of that? Well, I don't know. Let's try negative 3 as a test. Well, what's the easiest one between those? Well, 0. That's going to be a test. And I'm just going to say, well, let's choose 4, and that's going to be a test, okay? All right, so we plug in these values and then we see what their sign is basically. Are they positive or negative? Okay, so if we plug in a negative 3 here, we're going to have a negative 3 minus 3, and so that's going to be a minus 6. And a minus 3 plus 2 is going to be a minus 1. So that's going to be a positive 6. So that's going to be a plus. Now, what about the 0? Well, if we plug in 0, those go away and we get minus 3 over 2. And so that's negative. So here, that's negative. Now we plug in a 4. 4 minus 3 is 1. 4 plus 2 is 6. And that's going to be positive. So what do we want? We want less than or equal to 0. So is positive going to be less than or equal to 0? Nah, so we're not going to use that one. Is negative? Yeah, we'll use that one. What about this one? Positive? No. Okay. Now, what do we know about the interval? Well, we cannot equal negative 2, so we'll put a parenthesis there and have negative 2. And it can go all the way, including that one, and all the way and include that one. And so 3, and then we'll put a bracket. And since we can include that 0, we're just going to say that whole region works, okay? All right, so that's going to be our interval for the solution for this inequality. All right, so now we have a word problem. And so what we're gonna have to do is read it, probably have to adjust some things to figure out what we have, draw some pictures, come up with our equations, and then we're gonna have to solve and simplify those. All right, so one day Donnie observes that the wind is blowing at 6 miles per hour. An unladen swallow nesting near Donnie's house flies 3/4 of a mile down the road in the direction of the wind, turns around, and returns exactly 4 minutes later. What is the airspeed of the unladen swallow in still air? All right, well, what do we have? Well, let's say, we have this airstream going that way, and it's what, 6 miles per hour. Okay. Now it says this swallow flies in the direction of the wind. So what are we going to do? Well, we need to have something because it's asking what is the airspeed of that. So let's let x equal airspeed of the swallow. Okay. Now, if we say then x plus 6 is what they're going with the wind, that would be their speed that direction. Now that's with. Now if we go this way, we're going against the wind, and so that's going to be x minus 6. So whatever their speed is, we're going to have to subtract 6 off to get to that one, okay? All right, now we have to look and say, okay, well, here we have this time. It's in 4 minutes, but this is in miles per hour, and this is in miles. So I think what I want to do is convert this 4 minutes 2 hours. So what we can do is we can say 4 minutes over 1, and there's 60 minutes in 1 hour. And so then I get 4 goes in here, and that's going to be equal to 1 over 15 hours. Okay, so that's how long that 4 minutes actually is. Now, what do we know about this kind of problem? Well, we're going a distance, however far that is, 3/4 of a mile, and we have a rate, and we have times. So this is going to be a distance equals a rate times a time type of problem. Well, what is their distance? Well, no matter which way, he flies 3/4 of a mile. So how far is that? Well, that's 0.75. Okay. Now, what's the rate? Well, if we go with the wind, it's x plus 6. Okay. And what is the time? Well, we don't know what it is, but we'll call it TW. Okay, so time with the wind. So now we're doing this. Now, if he turns around and goes the other way, the rate slows down. It's x minus 6. And that time we also don't know. We know it's going to be against the wind, so we'll call it TA. Now, what do we know about TW and TA? Well, we know that it flies one way, turns around, comes back, and that takes 1/15th of an hour. So what we can say then is maybe TW plus TA is equal to 1/15th. That might be a way to report this as something we can do. TW plus TA equals that 1/15th of an hour. All right, so now because we know that, I'm going to solve for TW and TA. So now we're going to come over here, make a mess over here. So TW is equal to what? Well, it's equal to 0.75 divided by x plus 6, and TA is equal to 0.75 over x minus 6. Okay. Well, now I know what TW is and TA, and I can plug that now into this formula. So I can say 0.75 over x plus 6 plus 0.75 over x minus 6 is equal to 1 over 15. Okay. Now with this, it's going to be hard to add. I have to get a common denominator, or I have to multiply by all those denominators to get rid of them, so clear the fractions. So I'm going to multiply by x plus 6, x minus 6, and 15. So when I do that, I'm going to take this whole thing times each of those terms within that within that expression, equality. So when I multiply this one times that, the x plus 6's cancel, and I get 0.75 times x minus 6 times 15. Now when I multiply here, I'll have plus 0.75 times, now it's x plus 6 times 15. And that's going to be equal to, well, now just the 15's cancel, so I have x plus 6 times x minus 6. Okay. So now I've got that expression. So now I have to go to the next page because I've run out of room. And now I'm going to simplify. So I'm going to take and I'm going to multiply 15 times 0.75, and I get 11.25. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and use that. And then I'll have that times x. I'll have 11.25x. And then I also have to take it times a negative 6. So times negative 6 gives me a negative, with this one, negative 67.5. Okay. And so then what do I do? Well, now I have to do the same thing, but have to have a plus 6. So basically, what is that going to give me? Well, that's going to say, well, plus 11.25x plus 67.5. So that's kind of useful. And then on the right side, I have x plus 6 times x minus 6. So that's going to be x squared minus 36. Okay. So I know when I have a difference, like this, that's going to be an x squared and then minus 36 because our middle terms are going to cancel out. Okay. Now what do I have? Well, guess what? I have some things that cancel, it looks like. The 67.5 cancels. And so now what I can do is I can simplify and take 11.25 plus 11.25. So that's going to give me 22.5x equals x squared minus 36. Now let's take this over here. And so if I go ahead and put the x squared out front, then minus 22.5x minus 36 equals 0. That will give me the trinomial that I need to now solve. Now, can I factor that? No, because I know factors of 36 that are going to be, give me a 6 and a 6, but that won't give me that half in there. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to say, well, let's go ahead and do this. Let's use the x equals minus b, so it's going to be 22.5 plus or minus square root of negative 22.5 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is a negative 36, all over 2 times 1. Okay. Well, now I can simplify, and a negative 22.5 squared, remember to put your negative 22.5 in parentheses when you square that, and then minus 4 times minus 36. So that's going to give me 650.25. And so that's going to give us 22.5 plus or minus square root 650.25. And if I take that to this and take the square root of that, that's going to give me, oh, that's still all over 2. That's going to give me 22.5 plus or minus 25.5 all over 2. And so if I take and add them, I'll get one number. And if I subtract them, I'll get another number. Now, if I subtract them, 22 minus 25, that's going to give me a negative number. I'm pretty sure a bird's not going to fly negative miles per hour. So I'm not going to use the negative. I'm going to add only. So I'm going to take 25.5 plus 22.5, and that's going to give me equal 48 over 2, or 24. So that's what my x is, because my other x, again, that's going to be a negative. That doesn't make sense. And so my x is going to be 24 miles per hour for the speed of the swallow. Okay, so that was what they were asking for. And so that's what we ended up with. What is the speed of the unladen swallow in air? It was 24 miles per hour. Okay, so a lot of work, and a lot of it just, was simplifying and using the quadratic formula and all that to get down to our value of 24. All right, let's pause there and we'll come back for more.